D5, give me 5, or I got 5 on it. Will Wade in 5.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Our Friday show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's Monarch like the butterfly and money like the money. monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year using code LOCKEDONCollege. Happy Friday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. For those of you that missed our Thursday evening live show, it covered the sudden commitment of Texas Tech star forward Darrion Williams. He is a Wolfpacker. It somewhat came out of left field. There were some whispers earlier in the week that NC State was still potentially in on Williams after he withdrew his name from the NBA Draft Combine. However, it remained pretty consistent that Kansas was going to be the team to beat. In fact, he most recently took a visit to Kansas, I think earlier in this week, although it turns out he might have taken a secret visit to NC State before he made that one. Maybe that made the difference, but Kansas was going to have to be the team to beat if NC State wanted to get Darrion Williams. Well, we beat him. Will Wade beats out Kansas on the same day that Kansas lost another recruit to Duke. So Kansas went 0-2 to the Triangle, and NC State was the benefactor, landing a 5-star player out of the portal. Darrion Williams is a part of the reckoning.
Welcome to Raleigh D5. It's exciting things, exciting times. Everything that we have wanted for so long is materializing here. And I'm going to tell you something. The more I watch Darrion Williams, the more I see how he fits into this offense. The more I see how he fits into their defensive, into what Will Wade likes to do defensively. The more I see, he's kind of a Will Wade type of guy. You know, some guys, they have that personality. It's very outward and like it shows you who they are. If you watched him during the NCAA tournament, he was talking his talk very subtly, very, very subtly. To show, you know, he had his ways of letting opponents know, yeah, I'm cooking you right now. Yeah, hey, buddy. The ingredients said get a nice sear on both sides. I don't know. You might be well done by the time I'm done with you. So, you know, he has his ways. He's a guy that I'm excited to see in Raleigh. Like we talked about ad nauseum, offensively, 3-level scorer, good rebounder, good court vision. He had a 3-to-1 turnover to assist ratio assist to turnover ratio as a freshman. As a freshman, 6'6" forward with a 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. And even if we're talking about last year, I believe it was 2-to-1 or something like that, as a guy that's a primary scorer. I'm excited. Get ready to learn reckoning. And honestly, I think there's a chance that we land both. But more important than our chances at landing both, even if we had to pick one or the other, did Grayson and I not say, hey, we'd rather have PJ because the size difference and the different things that he could do? That is more rare than a guard, which we have good guard play already here. So again, I'm not ruling PJ Haggerty out. I'm not saying we don't want PJ Haggerty. Obviously, I would love to have him. But the guy that Grayson and I originally were like, hey, this is the guy. If we had to pick one of the two, both of us agreed it would be Williams. He's in Raleigh. He's coming to play some ball right off Wade Avenue, ladies and gentlemen.
PJ Haggerty is a phenomenal player, but yeah, to Kenton's point, in our original conversation about if you could only take one, who would you take? Both of us chose Darrion Williams because he fits a more specific need for this roster in that we need a lot more proven scoring, size, rebounding ability, all of that, defensive ability in the front court. And Darrion Williams can do each and every single bit of those criteria I just gave you. His capabilities and flexibility as kind of like a hybrid forward is through the roof. A 6'6" forward, he can play a little bit like a guard. In fact, he scores at times a bit like a guard. The capabilities he has He just takes this team to another level. I love the energy that he provides to the team. He's one of the fan favorites down there in Lubbock this year. Everyone loves this guy, not just because of what he does on the court, but a great guy, a great person to be around, and certainly a great asset to the locker room now for Will Wade's bunch. You can't say enough about how big of an acquisition this is for Will Wade and NC State in year one. And the country is already taking notice. I've been waiting for this moment, and we finally got it. We got the American Gangster tweet from John Rothstein on Twitter. That alone, I'll be content for quite some time after seeing one of those bad boys. Just wait till we get going in the actual season. But like we talked about all along, when Will Wade really gets motion in the portal and high school recruiting, attracting 5-star players, people are going to take notice. And boy, did they on Thursday night around the country. You got John Fanta tweeting about NC State, one of the top college basketball guys on the internet, saying that very nearly changing the entire landscape of college basketball. Will Wade is to be taken seriously, and the Wolfpack are going to be immediate ACC contenders. It's happening. This is that gravity that I was talking about. That's like the buzzword for the week, I think. The gravity that this program now has with Will Wade at the helm. You can go get a Darrion Williams and still have the idea that you could possibly also get a PJ Haggerty. That's that gravity. You can beat Kansas in a head-to-head recruiting battle and feel damn good in doing so. Think about NC State beating out Kansas for one of the top players available in the country. You'd say, okay, yeah, I've seen that movie a million times, and I'm well aware of how the ending is. Now, with Will Wade, different movie, different director, different script. You can beat Kansas head-to-head and immediately bolster your own roster to be one of the top teams in the league. Now, on the topic of PJ Haggerty, I've had some more time to chew on this situation. I'll say we'll see, because I still think the money is going to be the deciding factor. If NC State has a chance to pull off both of them remains to be seen. I think it was widely understood that Darrion Williams was going to be the first player to come off the board. It was just my understanding that Kansas was the most likely landing scenario. So much for that. We take Darrion Williams straight from the hands of the Kansas Jayhawks, and we are most certainly off to the races.
I want to, Grayson's space word of the week is gravity. Gravity is what Grayson is going with a lot. I want to use another space word. Near perfect vacuum. Do you know what that means, Grayson?
Enlighten me.
The reason that there is no sound in space, essentially, like if you and I were this far apart from each other and all other things aside, if we could be in space without any protective equipment or any communication equipment, we wouldn't be able to hear each other because it's a near perfect vacuum. That is how Will Wade, that is how Andrew Slater, that is how the entire GM staff, coaching staff have done this recruiting in a near perfect vacuum, because it is very little information escaping at any time. It is very little information escaping. And even when information does escape, it feels like you're watching the best psychological thriller ever, because you think like, oh yeah, we got no shot of getting this guy. Oh yeah, he's done. And then you look up, wait, how did the villain, he was the villain the whole time? Yeah. That is what keeps happening here. They are operating in a near perfect vacuum because things are not leaking out to anybody. And I'm telling you right now, yes, you hear a whisper here and a whisper there about this and that, but more often than not, things are played so tightly to the vest here. While I do understand that the money is definitely a factor, and while I do understand that, hey, maybe it is Kansas State or maybe it is Kansas or whoever else for PJ Haggerty. Maybe they do have the money after missing out on multiple recruits in terms of Kansas. Sure. I will say this. I'll just sit back and watch it play out, because Will Wade has given me the faith at this point in time in the ball game, at this juncture in the ball game. They're operating in the near perfect vacuum. I'm just going to see what pops out on the other side, because time and time again, we have seen phenomenal players pop up. I'm sitting here, oh, damn, we missed out on the guard that's 6'8" and shooting 40% from the three. Boom, 6'9" and shooting 40% from the three. You're like, where did this guy come from? Who? So I'm here trusting these coaches. I don't even have to implore Wolfpack Nation to trust Will Wade and his coaching staff, because people are dancing in the streets on Twitter. People are dancing in the streets on any Wolfpack message board. And Grayson and I had this moment off air. Everybody's having a Jurassic Park style moment where they're like, oh man, the ACC is really reacting wildly to us. And then Grayson taps me on the shoulder and says, actually, Ken, it's the entire nation. And I'm like, oh boy, this is something big. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited for the reckoning.
One of my favorite parts about this entire offseason so far is how unpredictable Will Wade and the staff has been. Every time you think you got them figured out what direction they're going, they 180 immediately and collect somebody in the complete opposite direction. Just when you think Kansas is okay, yeah, it's Kansas, there's no way they're not going to wrap up Darrion Williams, especially when they have to have a player like that. And Will Wade still reaches out, grabs him away from the Jayhawks, and firmly plants that reckoning flag in Raleigh. Unbelievable pickup in year one for this roster. Darrion Williams changes both the floor and the ceiling of this program and certainly gets the offseason buzz going a little bit louder for them boys in Raleigh. The country, the ACC, the entire college basketball world is taking note of what Will Wade and NC State are doing right now. So my advice to you, basically what Kenton already told you, for the next 5 days, when that May 28th date rolls around, just sit back and let it play out. Has Will Wade not earned your trust by now? Every time this man delivers, let it just play out for the next 5 days. I'd be shocked if he disappoints you because he ain't done it yet. Coming up next, actually speaking about disappointment, NC State baseball. What happened in Durham on Thursday night? We got to talk about it after a quick word from our sponsors. Our Friday sponsor is Monarch Money. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where the heck did all my money go? Andrew Slater never has. Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, sometimes it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes into play. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in just one place, so you can stop managing your money and start building your wealth. Managing your money with your partner is also now smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all the stress. Take control over your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's Monarch like the butterfly, money like the money, monarchmoney.com, using code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College, for 50% off of your first year, only on Monarch Money. Certainly don't want to ruin the mood here, but we do have to talk about NC State baseball. A very sobering 7-6 loss in the ACC quarterfinal of the ACC tournament in Durham on Thursday evening. That was a stinker. That was a game that you gave away. That was the exact situations that this team is built for. Late game leads. You have the perfect bullpen in order to close that game out. But when it's mismanaged, there's only so much you can really do. This is a loss that I put almost squarely on the head of Coach Elliott Avent and the pitching coach, Clint Chrysler. Now, the players have to execute, and we certainly made our handful of mental mistakes in this game as well. But late in that game, when you have Anderson Nance on the mound and you can see that Clemson's getting to him a bit, leaving him in the game probably like 3, 4, maybe even 5 batters too long. Clemson takes the lead, and then you go to Jacob Duden, where at that point, it is simply too little too late. You were able to get a lead before Clemson goes to the top closer in the ACC, and you still found a way to give it away late. It's extremely frustrating. It's a recurring theme, unfortunately, under this coaching staff. And so when a flaw happens a repetitive amount of times, it becomes very clear that it is not a bug, it is a feature. And so this is an extremely disappointing loss. And we talked about early in the week that NC State has not played good baseball since that 3-game sweep of Clemson. After that, faltered at Miami, split against the Dirty Foot Club, pissed all down our leg and lost to Stanford. And now you have a one and done in the ACC tournament in Durham. Kenton, how worried are you about this team now moving from the conference tournament to the NCAA tournament, where they're more than likely going to be a 2 seed?
I'm extremely worried But the thing is this: Elliott Avent and Elliott Avent and Pac-9 are the law of the wolf personified. Every
They
time
truly are.
you're like, oh boy, we are cooked. Like this group, there is no way that we can pull this off. Going into that Clemson series, everybody's sitting here saying, oh man, this Clemson team haven't lost a series all year. You know, we're hot, but are we really hot enough to beat Clemson? And then you go in and sweep them. And then for the entire rest of the season, you're like, we're going to do this thing. We're going to win ourselves an ACC championship, especially because the next weekend, Clemson, I believe, either lost their series or got swept. And it was like, oh, man, we are really going to do this thing. And, you know, the coaching staff and actually, let me not even say the coaching staff. The team as a whole, to quote SpongeBob SquarePants, said, I don't really feel like it. This going down the stretch here, you know, it was tough ball, but a moment like this, and I hate to be this guy, but I am going to be this guy because I'm not going to lie and say I fully 100% understand baseball in the way that Grayson does. But what I will say is I'm a big proponent of every game that's laid out before you, you go out and win it. For example, towards the end of the basketball season, one of my friends that I run another podcast with was asking me, Kenton, do you think that the Pistons should lose a little bit to avoid playing the Knicks first round because the Knicks are a 3 seed and, you know, you could end up going up against a 4 seed if you just lose a couple more? I said, absolutely not. If you have the opportunity to win, you win those ball games. That team has enough losing funk on them. And when you go for winning, at least your teams know, like, hey, this is the expectation. This is the standard here. With all due respect to Elliott Avent, I would never disrespect what he's done here. Again, we talk about the amount of first rounders, the amount of all-stars, you know, your Carlos Rodons, your Trey Turners. Let's be very honest. I am almost as certain as I've been about anything that we are going to see Rom-Com Dom on that list as well in short order here. No problem, no doubt about that in terms of guys that were superstars. But there needs to be a level of like, hey, we've got to win. We get to the postseason. If you say that, hey, the regular season championship is for the fans, well,
yeah.
You know, like now's the time. And again, this is no disrespect to him, but the reality is, Grayson, when did Coach Elliott Avent take over this team? Grayson, when did Coach Elliott Avent take over this team?
I believe it was 1997.
Now, that was before Grayson and I were even watching orange cassette tapes with Timmy, Tommy, and Chucky, right?
You know about the orange cassette? That's ball. That's ball.
Oh,
That's real ball right there.
Come on now. We all know about the orange cassette tape.
Yes,
but,
sir.
You know, we were watching What's the Story Wishbone back then. And yet one constant has remained. There are absolutely no championships at NC State that we can say this is a one-of-one championship. That still remains. As much as we love Elliott Avent, I can tell you, when I was a member of student media, Elliott Avent was my favorite coach by a mile. And that includes the guy who bought me the state. You know why? Because whenever you ask Elliott Avent a question, he was going to give you could ask him how's the weather, and he was going to give you multiple clips that you could instantly write a couple articles about. I love the man. Love him as a human being. Love him, all that stuff. We need to acknowledge. Darn near 30 years, no championship in terms of regular season, no championship in terms of postseason. We need one this year in the NCAA tournament, but it doesn't feel like this is the team to get it done. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope that the law of the wolf personifies itself here because we're cold as ice right now. I mean, to say we're colder than the icebox where Omarion's heart used to be may be an understatement. We may be a few degrees below that. And yet, it just, you feel like this team has the talent to get it turned around. So I hope they do in the NCAA tournament. We've seen before where, you know, we kind of sputtered into the NCAA tournament and then went on a run to go to the Final Four. But I'll tell you, things have to change in order to make that happen because right now it just seems like we got a terrible case of can't get right-itis.
For whatever reason, winning the ACC in any fashion in Elliott Avent is like holes of like two magnets. Like, it doesn't matter how hard you push, they will not click together. 28 years cannot find a way to put the hay in the barn. And to Kenton's point, the comment from Avent last weekend against Stanford, it's ribbing me in the ribs right now. You can't say something like the regular season title is for the fans and then come out and lay an egg in the ACC tournament. You can't do it. You can't say something as inflammatory as that and then not show up yet again when the lights are on you in a perfect situation, might I add, to do so. This was one of the best setups that an Elliott Avent team has had to make it to the final and win. And that includes the 2 years recently that they've made the final and weren't able to get it done. The way that this laid out in front of them, it was all there. You had the bullpen to do it. All you had to get was enough timely hitting, which maybe would have killed us at some point down the road anyway, because we simply have not had enough of it. But I truly I don't know what else there is to say. There's a point where you either can or you cannot. And unfortunately, Elliott Avent cannot. He cannot find a way to win the ACC. And it is unfathomable, but it's true. It's 28 years of being true. And so it's very disappointing with the amount of talent that is on this team to have that late lead against a team like Clemson. That is the formula for beating a team like Clemson. And you still found a way to hand it back to them in the late stages. So now they have no choice but to set their sights on the NCAA tournament. Their draw will be announced on Sunday evening. I do anticipate there'll be a 2 seed, possibly being the 2 seed in the Conway Regional, with Coastal Carolina being the 1 seed. But the level of baseball that NC State is playing right now, it doesn't matter where they go, because if they beat themselves, how on earth are they going to beat somebody else? So it simply will not happen. Effectively limping now into the postseason. You limped in the final series of the year against Stanford. Seems like that kind of bled over just a little bit in the conference tournament. You lost that game as well. We'll see where we go from now. But it's so incredibly frustrating. All the frustration from the fan base, I get, regardless of how great Avent is or is not. Thursday night was a failure, and there is no defense. Now they're on to the bigger dance, the NCAA tournament. They await their draw on Sunday evening. Coming up next, we're getting into Fan Friday, addressing our top comments of the week. This comes after a quick word from our sponsors. Last couple minutes of our Friday show. Now time for Fan Friday, addressing our top comments of the week. Here we go. First one comes from Robert McCall. It says, what's happening with the other international big? All right, so here's the deal. We have not talked a ton about this because I've been told that the staff has wanted to keep it relatively under wraps. However, the majority of y'all already know the name. The name has been floating out there for what feels like over a month now. So I will go ahead and tell you what's going on. The name is Moussa Sagnia. Moussa is a professional basketball player. He's playing in Spain. Now, the reason that the staff has been wanting to keep it under wraps, he's still playing in the middle of his season over in Spain. I believe they're actually nearing the playoffs. So his season's coming to a close very soon, where it's expected that a announcement will be made, because reportedly he has already committed to NC State. We'll see. Things obviously can change as they have over the course of the offseason, but that is who the international big is. Moussa Sagnia. He's been playing in Spain, very talented power forward. I believe he's 6'7", but has a lot of versatility, what he can do offensively and defensively. But that is what's happening. Kenton, do you think with the addition of Darrion Williams, though, could that situation possibly change?
I feel like it could, but I don't know enough about Moussa Sagnia's game to effectively say, hey, he is a great value version of Darrion Williams, or he is kind of rendered obsolete by what Darrion Williams. I don't know enough to firmly say that. All I will say is I'm interested to see what happens, because that was a commitment that Grayson talked to me about off air quite some time ago. So I'm not sure. Will Wade is here to win games. Obviously, it's not always going to be pretty and nice, and hey, there's no way that we're going to go with somebody else, even if you don't commit, or even if you can't commit, in this case of Mr. Sagnia here, until your season's over. I mean, it could be that. it could be. And, we have one more roster spot that we would like to be for you, but you make exceptions for exceptional people. And if some exceptional people are coming up, hashtag why not both, then, I wouldn't be mad at saying, hey, we like you. In another world, this would have worked out. But, it just is what it is. But again, if he does come, I'd be more than happy to have him as well.
There would have to be some outside the box engineering in order to make it all work. So that kind of leads me into the next one here. It comes from Too Much Talent. It says, not to be greedy, but are we still in the mix from Van Allen Lubin? I would rather have a proven down low guy than an undersized, unknown international talent. Still a little worried what happens when Mbia gets in foul trouble. So we did talk about Van Allen Lubin from the Dirty Foot Club a couple weeks ago, how that name got floated out. Reportedly, Will Wade was kicking the tires a little bit because Dirty Foot Club closed the door behind VAL behind him after he said that he wanted to return. Did not turn out to be the case. So in the event that NC State is looking for valuable depth in the front court, could pose as a very viable option. So I guess it's kind of the same question, just repackaged for you, Kenton, with Darrion Williams now in the fold and effectively just one more spot, maybe two, to play with. Do you look to finish this out with PJ Haggerty? Do you go and try and shore up your front court even more with a guy like Van Allen Lubin? Where do we think this leans now?
I will tell you this. I want to make a very definitive statement here. If Haggerty is on the table, with all due respect to these other young men, it has been real. It has been fun. I hope you got a nice steak at Sullivan's. I hope you got some great pasta, pizza, or beer at Emilio's. I would say Sushi Nine, but a couple people that got sick over there, so we ain't really going to bring them up. But I hope that you had some really nice food. Maybe you stayed in the Renaissance and got yourself some bar taco or something. They pour the drinks very heavy-handed over there. Great for them. I hope you did. But if Haggerty is on the table, with all due respect, that's who I want the last spot to go to. Now, if he is not, and you're asking me what I want here, first of all, your name is Too Much Talent. There is no such not to be greedy. You should be greedy, okay? You should be gluttonous when it comes to talent and getting all these great players in the NC State. You should be. Like I said, this is our time to stockpile weapons to the point where it's like guys on our bench would be starters elsewhere. But would I want Van Allen Lubin? I wouldn't be opposed to him. I think that he is proven down low guy and all that good stuff. More power to him. I wouldn't mind him being on the squad. You are correct that he does add in size for if Mbia gets in foul trouble. And Grace and I have talked about this a million times on there as well. We've seen what happened when we did not have enough bigs. And then within 3 seconds of the season, one of our big that was supposed to be the guy got hurt, and it was not good. It was not good at all. So I completely understand the thought of we need another big. I'm not going to, downplay that at all. I'd be happy for Van Allen Lubin to be here if we don't have the ability to get Haggerty. But
walk with me here. What Kenton said about if PJ Haggerty's on the table, that's your guy. I wholeheartedly agree with that. If you can make that work, you find a way to make it work. But what's interesting now is that Darrion Williams was the first one to come off the board. He was perceived to be, I guess, the cheaper of the two options between him and Haggerty. Can't be by a whole lot because Darrion Williams is one of the top players in the portal. But being that PJ Haggerty had that ridiculous price tag in the very beginning and you just allotted a lot of money to Darrion Williams, where do you now stand with PJ Haggerty if that price tag was a breaking point? He may or may not need some help robbing a bank if we're going to make PJ Haggerty work here. If it does turn out that money is now tight on the other side of this entire scenario, I might find a bit more sense in adding a guy like Van Allen Lubin who shores up your front court than having to break the bank and add in another guard, even though he would be phenomenal. And again, he takes his team to probably like a top 10 team in the country. And if you can do that, you absolutely do that. But I'm opening my eyeballs just a bit to how much sense Van Allen Lubin would potentially make if they do choose to go in that direction.
I'll tell you what, if you need help robbing a bank, come on, let's do it, Will Wade. We're gonna mask up and get it done, baby. No, but seriously, I totally get what you're saying in terms of it's a situation where the dollars and cents have to make sense here. And I get that. I completely get that, as that is a reality of college sports nowadays. So, I understand. I understand if that's where we are. And again, if that's where we are to the point where, hey, I was joking. If any law enforcement is listening to this, I will not be participating in any bank robberies. I completely get getting Van Allen Lubin if need be.
Don't give me a reason to jump on Amazon and find me a little shiesty mask. I'll do that. Whatever it takes. Will Wade, I am here for you, bro. If you need my help, I am here to offer. That's all I got to say on that. And last one here comes from WP MacGyver. It says that somebody is Kansas. Okay, this is in correlation to who is floating out Kansas State as a viable option for PJ Haggerty. They say that somebody is Kansas. I think they are worried about Haggerty coming to state and that increasing Darrion Williams' interest. Well, this is kind of even more funny after the fact, because if it was Kansas, how'd that work out for you? We got Darrion Williams even when you thought our main guy was PJ Haggerty. Before Thursday happened, it made some sense. If you're Kansas, objectively, you can kind of push your in-state rival into the line of fire without them even being prepared for it. All of a sudden, they're looking around like, oh, we're trying to get PJ Haggerty? Well, that's news to me. Kansas is throwing a smokescreen there because they were in desperate need of getting Darrion Williams. And by making NC State nervous potentially over PJ Haggerty, maybe they could swoop in behind the scenes and shore up their deal with Darrion Williams. But to quote my good friend DJ Khaled, you played yourself. Bless up. Look at what happened now. NC State took your mans. We got Darrion Williams. And PJ Haggerty still be on the table for NC State. We will have to wait and see over the course of the next 5 days if that happens. But Kansas, if they were the ones to float out Kansas State, which is objectively funny, they played themselves.
Can you imagine how sick people would be, how stomachs would turn, not just in Lawrence, Kansas, but nationally, if NC State were to land both of these? Because Darrion Williams was supposed to be the guy that there was no shot. That was supposed to be the one where it's like, oh, NC State can't do it. They can't pull it up. So if they pull off that one and you get the guy that is like, oh, yeah, he was probably headed to state anyway. Can you just imagine how sick you would be? Not even taking a shot at Kansas, but as any school who threw out the smoke screen. Or if you are K-State and you're sitting up here saying, and potentially if it is them, if it is true that they were the team, saying they got everybody over there. They got all the guys. They can't have money for you, PJ. Can you imagine being in that situation and then looking up and saying, "Oh, they got both"? What do you mean? Can you imagine what it would feel like to hear they got the second guy? Oh, when I tell you, hearts
a dagger to
behinds. The heart. Hearts would be in behinds, okay? That would hurt. That would hurt more than that. You're such a great guy. I wish I could find somebody like you text, okay? That's the level of pain that would be felt around the nation here, because I am telling you, this is just an off season that's going so well for NC State basketball, from the coaching search to the players that they picked up in the portal. And can I remind you all, Will Wade said this team will be finished before his show cause is done. So, while it may look like PJ Haggerty is out, I just want you all to take just very good stock of the fact that plenty of times players were out on NC State, no way to NC State, and then all of a sudden we looked up and, hey, what's that graphic you got there? What's that? Grant Hughes still can't come outside. That boy's been hiding in his mom's basement ever since that tweet dropped. So, I'm trusting in the process. I'm trusting in Will Wade, whatever it looks like.
The next 5 or so days should be very fun as Will Wade continues to shore up this roster. Darrion Williams is the latest into the fray, and a big one at that. We finally get our big fish. Potentially could have another one on the line. That'll do it for us here on Friday. As always, thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to hit that like button. Drop your comments in the comment box. Give us your thoughts on Darrion Williams, hashtag D5 at State. Don't even need to get him to State. He's here now. D5 at State. Give us your thoughts on that big commitment. Tell us what you think about Pac-9 baseball falling flat on their face in the ACC quarterfinal, a 7-6 loss to Clemson. And tell us anything else you have on your mind over the course of this week, heading into next week when we may or may not have our finalized year one roster for Will Wade. Mash that subscribe button if you have not already. We'll catch you back here on Monday for more. And until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.